Number one is they try to mold you to fit their likeness or their liking. Now, what we're talking about is something that is extremely important to people with Asperger syndrome, and that is we are often taken advantage of by people who are nefarious. And this happens primarily because people with Asperger syndrome tend to be empaths. We tend to be gullible. We have an altruistic view of the world, or altruistic worldview, and people who are usually people who are narcissists or have those tendencies see that as an opening. They see that as a weakness. They see our kindness as an opportunity to take advantage of us to their gain. Well, we need to know the warning signs, how that's going to happen. And this is not by any means conclusive, but these are the top 8 that I could think of. And maybe you could think of some that I missed, and if you can, well, that's why we have a comment section below, so feel free to use that if you so desire. So number one is they try to mold you to fit their likeness or to fit whatever they want you to be. It may not be like them, but just to their liking. That tells us what? Well, that tells us that they don't respect us, people with Asperger syndrome, as we are. Now, I encountered this a lot over my life, particularly as a child. I have told the story many times on this channel, how at the age of around 12 years old, maybe 11, there was this German lady that my dad was doing some wallpaper hanging for, and she was bothered by the fact that I wasn't making eye contact, and she let her feelings be known. She tried to force me to make eye contact with her so I would be to her liking. That is a danger sign. Well, the fact that she tried to bully me into looking at her, that just made matters worse. I don't want to say that I became afraid or terrified, but intimidated. That was just a form of bullying, and the fact that she was a German had nothing to do with it. But we find those types of experiences occur frequently throughout our lives. Why are you so quiet? Recall when I was in college, I worked with I guess you would call it an evangelistic team, even though they didn't do much evangelizing. But this team would go to public schools around, I think it was around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We would travel from Virginia to Pittsburgh because there was some contact up there. And one of the things that the director told me was that I don't recall the way he phrased it, but he was pointing out that I wasn't very animated when I was on the stage singing with a group. I don't know what these people expect. They want you to make faces or wave your hands around. I don't know. But, when I do public speaking, I am quite animated. But the point is, he was trying to force me to be like he wanted me to be, not his likeness, but to his liking. And that's just not me. And I had another experience previous to that when I was in high school that was very similar. I was sitting in class. It happened to be a music class. We had this group of 8 guys that sang together, and we'd go out and perform. And this one instructor, a guy was, I don't know, just fresh out of college, probably in his mid-20s at the oldest, and he wanted me to get up and dance around because he noticed that I was very subdued. That's called flat effect, and it's not just your face, but it's your body mannerisms, and I just refused to do it. And he gave up on me, quit asking me at least whatever, but that's just who I am. But throughout life, people have this expectancy of normalcy according to them. And those are just 3 experiences that I just popped in my head, off the top of my head. So they will try to fit you to please them. That tells us that they don't respect, I think I said this a moment ago, but they don't respect who we are. But I got to tell you, before we go on, I'm actually sitting in front of a window. And sometimes when I do this, the light is just overbearing. They say that natural light is the best when you make videos, but if it's too much light, I'm sorry, but when I get rich, when my YouTube channel becomes phenomenally successful, then I will have funds to go out and buy lighting and block out the window. But if you have a few extra $1,000 to spare, probably only cost a few hundred, but while I'm asking, I might as well jack it up to a few thousand so I could buy appropriate lighting. Yeah, I'll take it. I'm not expecting any offers, but hey, why not throw it out there? Number 2, leaves you behind. One of the signs you're being used is people leave you behind. These are people who constantly want you to chase after them. Now, this could be in basically any circumstance you could think of. It could be a romantic relationship, could be a friend, could be a business or work-related incident, but people are sometimes physically. They take off and leave you behind. They abandon you. I don't know if you, as a person with Asperger syndrome, assuming you're a person with Asperger syndrome, has ever had one of those encounters where you were just, literally, well, not literally, but physically ditched. Not that they threw you in a ditch, but somebody just took off and left you. Yeah, that sends a very strong message, doesn't it? That means we don't want you to be with us. Doesn't happen very often, but I've seen that in the past. So that is a sign that you are being used, that you are being taken advantage of. Now, if it is a love interest, a love relationship, a amorous relationship, sometimes people will try to make their partner or potential partner jealous. So they will, I'm going to go over here and pretend I'm affectionate to this other person so that you will come after me, try to get you to chase them. So they are moving away from you to this other person so you will follow them. So what they're doing is they're leaving you behind. Not a good idea. On their part. For number one is it's not a good idea because they are abusing the other person, and if they don't mind abusing that other person that they are showing falsely affection to, they won't mind abusing you at some point in your future. That is a warning sign. And I think maybe, well, I was going to say I think maybe everybody does it, but I can't actually ever remember doing that to someone. Not that I had many opportunities, but I just can't remember. But the dumbest thing I ever did. And by the way, when I say the dumbest thing I ever did, I actually have hundreds of the dumbest thing I ever did. So this is one of those hundreds of the dumbest thing I ever did. Is I had this very wonderful young lady, and we had a good relationship going. Yeah, she was my girlfriend. I know every time I say that, people say, yeah, right. But yeah, I had a girlfriend when I was a teenager. And the dumbest thing I ever did was I got frustrated, confused over something. I didn't know where a relationship was going, and she said some things that bothered me. Dumbest thing I ever did is I just got up and walked away. Well, I literally drove away, but I took her home, and that was the last I saw her. I think I saw her once, but last I had anything to do with her. And in hindsight, how arrogant could I be? I just a flat-out jerk to do that. What that was saying is communicating to her and to myself and to everybody else that I was just using her, and that's not the right thing to do. What I should have done, way back then, I was 17, 18 years old, is I should have had the decency to at least, the maturity to at least talk to her and explain to her the problem. Maybe we would have resolved the problem. Maybe not, but at least have the maturity not to leave people behind. It's very cold, it's very cruel, and all of us do it. Number 3 is, if somebody's words don't match their actions, that is a strong indicator that you, my friend, you, my Aspie friend, are potentially being taken advantage of. And sometimes when we talk about actions, we're also talking about, or words rather, we're talking about implied. Sometimes people don't flat out say that I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do that. But sometimes they just send us signals that communicate to us that this is what you can expect. For example, some guy, you young ladies out there, some guy may seem to be very loving. He really doesn't care about you at all, you know? He's just doing something selfish to please himself. So he's not actually saying anything. I mean, he may, but he's not actually saying anything. But by his actions, he's misrepresenting himself, misrepresenting his real intentions. And his words don't match his actions, even though he's not speaking literal words. He's speaking with his actions. But what we say don't match his actions in this case, don't match his motives. And I wish when I were younger, I had had an older guy like me to take me aside and say, look, this is the way you treat young ladies or old ladies or anyone in between. You know, you got to have this measure of courtesy because you're sending a wrong signal. Now, when I just took off and left my girlfriend back then, I really cared about this girl. You know, I really loved her. I just stupid. I just a jerk. You know, that's all there was to it. But never occurred to me. And nobody ever sat me down or took me aside and told me any different. One of the problems that young men have with older men is that older men feel threatened by younger men and they like to put them down. That happens, you know, when I was younger, you know, teen years, early 20s, that happened all the time. And you really didn't have a mentor. You had a tormentor. That's the way it seems. Number 4 is this. They take your loyalty for granted. One of the traits of people with Asperger syndrome is we tend to be extremely loyal. Go get a job. Many of us plan to be there for the rest of our lives. Yeah, we got a job flipping hamburgers. I'm going to build my career with this company. We are intensely loyal to this company. And what does the manager do or the supervisor? Not always, but sometimes they'll say, okay, this guy is an idiot. We can take advantage of him or her. That is because we are so naive and we are so gullible as people with Asperger syndrome is we are expecting reciprocation. I'm going to be loyal to my company and they're going to recognize my loyalty and they're going to compensate with loyalty to me. That's a nice fantasy to live in, but it's not the real world. So the point is, when someone is taking your loyalty for granted, and it may not be an employer, could be a love interest, could be a friend, it could be a business associate of some kind, but you know, people are people. And sometimes we need to accept that and apply that observation to our lives, that just being loyal to you doesn't mean you are going to be loyal back. And if someone takes advantage of that loyalty and maybe ask us to do things that they wouldn't ask others to do, that's a strong sign that I was going to say that's a strong sign that you're being used. I mean, that is so obvious, it's not a sign. I mean, that's actually being used. Number 5, change plans without regard to your interest. All right, let's delve into this if we could. The reason I'm pausing, there was a pop-up came on my screen. I got this problem with whatever Microsoft's browser is. I've been trying to get it off my computer, but somehow they know more about technology than I do. I mean, how is that possible? All right, so someone will change plans without regard. So back at the workplace, I recall that there was a time in my life in my mid-30s when I was working like 5 part-time jobs at the same time, plus my wife was babysitting. You know, we paid our bills. Wasn't easy, but every waking hour I was doing something. I mowed grass for a while. I had a a part-time job at a cable. Well, I had a full-time job at a cable company, but it didn't last because it just took too much out of me. I need to learn my diction. Um, I had a job at a grocery store where I'd get up early in the morning. I'm talking 5 o'clock in the morning, and my job was to go in and buff the floors. I'd go in for a couple hours, and that, every day. That was my job. Had a small church that I was the pastor of. They didn't pay me very well. And another job I had for a very short time was I was working in a sandwich shop. And I recall I went to work one day, and the manager asked me what I was doing there. She said, "You're not on the schedule." Yes, I was, because I looked at the schedule, and I'm not stupid. I know what it said. It said I was supposed to be here that day at that hour, and these were the hours I was going to work. And her response was, "Well, go back and look at it." So I went back and looked at it. Guess what? She changed the schedule, but she didn't bother to tell me. So she changed plans without any regard whatsoever to my life. I mean, I was a busy guy. I didn't have spare time to be running back and forth to a sandwich shop. Plus, she had me scheduled for days that I had otherwise planned to be off work, because that's what the schedule said before she changed it. So that was a clear warning sign for me that I was being used, and the thing to do, I didn't quit immediately, but this was one of those people that was just kind of abusive. So I quit. And last I heard, and this was a long time ago. Geez, this was probably 35 years ago. Maybe not that long, but yeah, maybe 35 years ago. What I heard was she got fired, which she shouldn't have been hired in the first place. So number 5, they change plans without regard to you. And again, that applies to almost any kind of relationship you can imagine. Workplace, as we mentioned, love interest, as we always mention, friendships, whatever. If they change plans without regard to you, strong sign that you're being taken advantage of, my friend. So you might want to back off from that one. Number 6, expects you to always be available. Well, since we're at the workplace, let's use this example. Have you ever had an employer that expects you to work days, odd shifts that no one else is expected to work, like they expect you to come in on Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter, but only you? I mean, some people may come in 1 or 2 of those holidays, but not all 3 of them. The only person that they expect to do that is you. But they expect you to always be available. That is somebody who is taking advantage of you. You're being used. So there's the warning sign. And so stop and think about that. Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. Number 7 is self-absorbed, one-way relationship. During the tenure that I was a pastor of a small church, which was 12 years, the longest job I ever had outside of being self-employed, is I realize that some people just are not happy unless they're unhappy. In fact, people love to be unhappy. They just do. I mean, it draws attention to them. They like to play the part of the wounded soldier, and no place better to do that than in church, because there's no fallout. I mean, if you get mad and quit your job because you were offended, you lose your income. But you do that at church, you don't lose anything. Do that at school, and you lose your education. But do it at church, no problem. Walk out on your family, okay, you're going to have big problems. But walk out on your church, here today, gone tomorrow. So what happens is that people just have this thing where they love to be offended. They love to feel sorry for themselves, and they want other people to feel sorry for them. They are self-absorbed. They have a one-way relationship. They don't care about you. You care about them. That's the way it is. It's all about him, or it's all about her, or whatever the case may be. And so the role is to be happy, even if it means pretending to be unhappy. And that's pretty much it. Now, one of the things that I have learned and I'm pushing 70 years old. I've learned a thing or two over the decades. Just sharing some of those things with you is why we do these videos, and I hope you're getting something out of it. If you are getting something out of it, let me know in the comments section. Just say getting something or something to that effect. But one of the things I've learned, been married now for 40, maybe 46 years come July, is my objective is not to be happy. So you don't want a happy marriage? No, I want my wife to have a happy marriage. I want my wife to have a happy life. I want her to be happy. So it's really, really simple. I mean, it's just extremely simple. All there is to a happy marriage is to not try to be happy. Try to make your spouse happy. And that works very well as long as your spouse is doing the same thing. Now, if you happen to be so unfortunate to be married to a narcissist, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I can help you with that. But I can tell you this. I have performed several weddings over my lifetime. People lie to you. On the altar, you get them up there and say, do you fill in the blank with their name, promise to take so-and-so to have and hold till death do you part? And they lie. They say, I do. They don't. I mean, some of them do. Some are very serious about their vows. And some of them are serious about their vows, but their partner is not serious about his or her vow. That's a serious problem. So the only way I know to avert that is, well, that's why I'm doing this video, is say, look, here are some of the warning signs you need to pay attention. And just another thing, while we're on that topic, let me just remind you that the wedding is not the end-all be-all or the be-all end-all. That's just day one. I mean, you got the rest of your life with this person. At least in my opinion, that's the way it should be. And it's so unfortunate that there's some people, particularly women, who want to be the bride. They want to have a big wedding, or they want to have a wedding. That's a very special day for them, and it should be. But that's it. They just want to have a wedding. Well, what's the purpose of having a wedding? Well, it's just to celebrate a relationship that's going to last till death do you part. So if you are thinking of a wedding not as the first day of spending your life with somebody, first day of your marriage, you're making a big mistake. Yeah. So just think of your wedding not as an event in and of itself, but as an event that celebrates the rest of your life together with this one person. That takes us down to number 8. One of the ways that you can tell that you are being used if a person belittles you, mocks you. I'm talking about doing this with a mean spirit. I'm talking about mocking you in front of other people so they can put you down, so they can elevate themselves. Now, I'm not talking about having fun teasing each other. In fact, that may even be beneficial, depending on the temperament of the person that you're with. May not always be, or your temperament for that matter. But when I was in college, I traveled with this guy for a while. He's a good friend, still is. I really like this guy, appreciate him. But he would do the preaching. He was an itinerant preacher, called himself an evangelist, but I don't like that term because they're not evangelizing anybody. They're just going on tours, speaking to churches. But my job, I had 2 jobs. My jobs were, number 1, to drive. Took my car, thanks a lot. But my job was to drive, and I would sing. I was the singer. I would take care of the music end of it. He would take care of the preaching end of it. And one of the things this guy did is he loved to belittle me when we were around others in a joking manner. He would put me down. I was the brunt of the joke. He thought that was hilarious. I didn't think it was funny at all. I mean, I'd offer a nervous smile, I don't want to be a jerk about it. But eventually, I had to tell the guy, stop doing that. You're being a jerk. And he stopped doing it, but I think I offended him. I think he got a little mad at me, but so be it. Sometimes you got to confront people with these things. But if there is somebody, and again, I'm not talking about teasing, just having fun. But if someone is elevating themselves at your expense, through ridicule, through mocking, just belittling you, there's a strong sign that you are being used. Maybe that's a relationship that you, my Aspergian friend, may want to consider getting out of. And I know relationships for people with Asperger syndrome hard to come by, and you don't want to just throw them away casually. I got that. I understand. We're all in this same situation. We understand each other. I think we do. But still, there are some relationships better not to have them than to wish you weren't in them. You see those two rectangles on the screen? If you would click on one of those, we can keep on talking and we'll keep our conversation going. But if you're done, well, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you all next time.